So, hi. It's the 2nd of August, and I meant to film this video yesterday, but I wasn't feeling well, so I'm filming it now in the morning. I have to go to work in about 40 minutes, so we have time. I'm gonna talk about all the books I read in July. The first book I finished and read is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So at the beginning of this month, I decided that I wanted to binge the Lord of the Rings / Hobbit movies. I was like, actually, let me just read the books along with it. And so the first one I started with is The Hobbit. Now, my parents, especially my mom, is like a huge fan of the movies and the books. And I like them. Well, I like the movies, but I was never like a huge fan. But the book, like The Hobbit, is the only one I've read so far. Like I wanted to read all of it this month, but I didn't do that. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. And it made me realize how much I love like that storytelling kind of narration where the author slightly almost breaks the fourth wall in some ways, where they kind of like change their mind while writing. Like if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like I love that kind of writing. It was like so fun, and I'm like so I was so confused when I found out there were 3 movies for this little teeny weeny book, but I think that they did it well. And yeah, it was like a good time. I would recommend, even if you're like not a fantasy fan or like a middle grade fan, I think you would enjoy the book. It's a good book, okay? The second book I finished is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Is that the name? That's the second book. I actually started that book the month before, but it took me a while to get through. I was listening to it on audiobook. It was good. It's the first book I ever read which has like, is it second person? It's written in second person, where it refers to you. It's like you did this and then you did that and then blah blah blah. Yeah. It was good. It was the first book I ever read in the point of view of a mother, and I think that is the most interesting thing. I actually went into it thinking it would be like a 5-star book, like because I hear so many good things about it, and it's high fantasy, which I generally like. But it was okay. I didn't dislike it. The next book is The Shadow of the Wind by, forget about the name, right? The Shadow of the Wind. um this one was good. I did enjoy it. I actually have the physical book. Maybe I should get it and hold it for authenticity. This book right here. Um this was really good. This is another book where I was reading it and I really liked the way it was written, like the writing style. I think it was very, beautiful. It like kept me like wanting to read. Like there's some writing where I feel like reading it flows very nicely, and this was one of them. This actually is also a book that kind of took me a while to read though, because I like took a break at some point and I had started it the month before. Like I didn't start this in July. But for a while, I do think that there was a part where I kind of got, like, what do I want to say? Where I kind of, not bored, but I was like, I kind of expected this to be like super twisty. Ooh, you know what mistake I made? The book kind of has like a fake end. And, well, not a fake end. I'm the stupid one. Like it ends here, and then you have like this other section. And I remember it ending here and like putting the book down. I still had all of this left, but I didn't like pick it up right away, and so I was like, that was it. Like this is a mystery book, and that was the twist. It wasn't really like a twist. It was like you kind of slowly found out what happened, but it wasn't like a guessing game kind of twist. So I thought at the end there would be like this big thing that you didn't know, right? But then that didn't end up happening. It kind of just ended, and I was like, okay. I still liked the book, but nothing surprising happened. Okay, all of the book, let me find it again. Let me find that page again. It starts on this page. Like the twists, the things where you're like, oh my god, what? That starts when you get to this point. So I should have like just read that, because I think I stopped and then I didn't pick that up until like 2 days later. So I was like, okay, it's a good book. But anyway, yeah. Also, it makes me want to go to Spain. I was at work and then this guy came out and he was like, oh my god, that's one of my favorite books. And he started talking to me about it. And then he told me that there were more books. I thought this was a standalone, and it does read kind of like I could just finish this book and be done with it. But apparently there are 4 or 3 more books. He was like telling me about the entire series and about how I have to continue if I like it. And yeah, he really convinced me. He was especially telling me like it's gonna make you want to go to Barcelona, and it does. Like I really want to go to Barcelona and experience the visuals of this book. The next book I read is The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. What should I say about this book? I picked it up because I heard that it was like the point of view was like a crazy person, not like literally. Well, it was like a morally gray, which are like the kind of books, especially nowadays, the kind of characters that I enjoy reading about is like the really morally gray people who do like messed up stuff, but like you kind of like them. Yeah, so I picked this one up. This was, I don't know, it was okay. It was kind of boring for me. You're just following the main character like doing like bad, well, no, not the quotation marks, they are bad, like doing bad stuff, like a lot of animal mutations, animal like chopping off their heads, killing them, sticking them on posts for a fake war that they have, like a game. Yeah, but the ending was good. Like the tension at the ending, like the big discovery, that was like good. And it was like, all right, yeah. And I remember the last line got me and I was like, yeah, that was fun. But the rest of it, I mean, it's a really short book. I don't even think it's 200 pages. It's like 100 and something pages. But the first like 90 pages were very boring. So yeah, that's that book. The next one is Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. 5 stars. I loved it. I just like V.E. Schwab in general, and I especially like this series. It was fun. It was entertaining. I love the characters. And it's like the second book. I read the first one for the first time in January of this year. This was the second one. A third one is coming out sometime next year, I think. So yeah, it's like so good. If you like fast-paced, bad guys, like you're following the bad guys, you're rooting for the bad guys kind of books, yeah, like you're gonna like Vicious and Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. The next one that I read and finished this month is The Library of the Unwritten by I can't remember the name, A.J. Hackwith. I don't remember anything about this book. I listened to it on audiobook, and when I listen to books on audiobook, a lot of information about them goes over my head because I can easily get distracted. So that's kind of what happened with this book. A lot of the time I don't really remember what happened. I don't like, it wasn't that engaging. It was like a very standard fantasy, urban fantasy kind of thing. The concept was very cool, but it was like kind of boring. It just like follows like a library. There's a library in hell with forgotten books, and the main character has to go and find this book character that escaped from one of the books and blah blah blah, and you're following them and blah blah blah, and then you make some discoveries about the main character who's a librarian and blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah. Yeah. Kind of boring. And then the next and last book, and this is the one which is, I think, I would say The Hobbit is my favorite one of the month, but my second favorite one of the month, for different reasons, is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Whatever. Yeah. This book I picked up. I actually also have the physical of this one, so let me get that. This book right here, I annotated it and everything. So fancy. I picked up this book because, one, obviously it's a popular book. It's a classic. And it's magical realism, which I think is my favorite genre, my favorite thing to read. And I picked it up. I found it at a used bookstore, obviously, and I got on reading it. I wanted to read it specifically because I was very interested in how the author would write 100 years into this book, what the method would be, because I was curious. Like, that's actually one of the main reasons why I picked it up when I picked it up, because I just wanted to know. But so yeah, I started reading it, and I was kind of confused in the beginning of reading this book, because I was like, what is the point of this book? Like, I mean, not saying that all stories particularly have to have a certain point, but I didn't know where this was going. My impression, I thought that this book, like, was going to be a lot more wholesome than it was for some reason. Like, I didn't know anything much about the book going into, which I really, like, you first go into this book and you're like, okay, this book is not wholesome, so what is it? Like, and I've also, because it is a classic and it is such a, it won the Nobel Prize, and I was like, this book has to be doing something. And I was reading and I was like, okay. And I remember, like, in the middle, I kind of got a little bit bored, and I was like, okay. But by the end of this book, I realized, like, I had, like, the light bulb, and I was like, okay, I think I get it. I think the way that I think that solitude, it's called 100 Years of Solitude, and that actually, when going into this book, I thought it was going to be about this family, which I knew is a family saga, like, finding this town, or not literally, like, they found this town, and, like, the town was going to be, what's the word, like, not isolated from, like, the rest of the world. I don't know why, but in my mind, that was, like, what the book was about. That's not what the book was about. It is, like, the family is, like, isolated, but not, like, literally. Like, they can still see other people, they can still talk to other people, but they choose to isolate themselves for different reasons. Like, each character isolates himself, and then it, like, creates insanity. So this is, like, a book which you're reading about a family kind of going insane, or, like, how the generations are, like, inheriting each other's insanity, or making, like, the same mistakes over again. Like, that's another thing. Like, they keep on making the same mistakes. And then, like, just the last pages, when you're following the last family member, like, in the whole family, and he's realizing this, he's realizing what like, how doomed the Buendia family was from the beginning. Like, they were a doomed family. They were gonna end, like, he was going to be the last one from the beginning. They, like, it was known that he was gonna be the last one, and he's, like, realizing this, and then he's just gone. Like, I don't know, it was just so fun. Like the rest of the book, I definitely like had like, this is kind of weird. The writing was amazing. Like the author has really long sentences. This is definitely a book that I need to reread, because even though I annotated it, I annotated very like, not silly, but like just things that I either found funny or patterns that I found when it came to like other books that just stuck out to me. But now, like knowing what this book was doing, I want to like read it, and then with that lens of like knowing that this is like a family going insane, and that made me love it so much more, because I'm in a phase where I just like reading about crazy people, as I said. With my, like, that's what made me pick up what's it called, the Wasp Factory, or even Vengeful, which is not really like, they're just like, yeah, but yeah. So I like this a lot more in the end. Like I thought I was gonna like it when I picked it up, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this that much. But by the end, yeah, I really liked it. And I would actually, this is a book that I wouldn't recommend to people, because I can very easily see people reading this and hating it. Like, you're gonna have to read about, trigger warning, incest, murder, war, grape, all that kind of stuff. But it was like, it like makes sense, but it doesn't. It like, no, the book doesn't make sense, but it's a good book. So this is the last book I finished last month. And if you want to know the books I'm currently reading, I'm reading As Meat Loves Salt right now, which goes along the same theme of reading about crazy people, about like borderline sociopaths. But I don't think this main character is a sociopath or a psychopath, but a little bit messed up in the head for sure. I'm also, and I'm super excited about this one, I'm also in the middle of reading / listening to, I'm kind of switching between the two, The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Yeah. And I'm like, I think that one's gonna be a 5-star book. It's really good. And that's a book I would recommend everyone read. I realized that I don't ever talk about like what the books are about even after I'm done reading them. But it's just like, I don't know. Like I kind of talk about what it's about, but I don't talk about what it's about at all. Yeah. So that's all I have to say.